Hello everyone and welcome to the channel. I am Sonia C and I am so excited to launch this new video series called Flex Your Vote, where I will be breaking down the 7 measures on the 2022 California ballot in preparation for our upcoming election this November. I have been wanting to do this kind of series for a while now, but I didn't necessarily feel like I was the right individual to be discussing these important propositions. But I recently graduated from law school and I just took the California bar exam. So I feel better equipped to walk you through both sides of the argument, the for and the against, provide a little bit of legal context and background in terms of why particular propositions have been introduced on the ballot, and also be able to create a nonpartisan, accessible, safe space to be discussing these important political questions and propositions as we gear up for an election. And my hope is to, one, empower you to cast a vote. I have talked to so many individuals who feel very dispassionate unless it's a presidential election, because it can be difficult to aggregate and find the information necessary to make an educated vote when it comes to voting for propositions. So, hoping to empower you to vote by providing you with the tools and resources to decide which way you would like to vote. Second, I would like to ease your process of accessing reliable and objective information that is incredibly important to make an educated vote. And the third is to really have you engage deeply with these questions and engage deeply with your vote. Because I really believe when we are making or casting a vote that is rooted in informed decision making, that is at the zenith in terms of giving power to our vote and giving power to our engagement with the political process. And I think that that is incredibly important and something that is very easy to kind of glaze over, and it gets lost in the midst of our busy day-to-day and our work, our passions. There isn't really a lot of time to do the research, understand what the core issues are, and then cast a ballot that we feel very confident about. And I know that we're starting to see the marketing campaign videos where the yes on or no on committee are trying to garner our vote in one direction or another, but that's kind of skipping a very crucial step. And this video series will hopefully fill that void and allow you to head into voting day knowing that you have the information necessary to vote your conscience. So I want you to engage deeply as you watch these videos. If you have questions or if you want me to cover additional information, just please throw it down in the chat and let me know, because that's what I'm here for. But my plan is, in this initial introductory video, to overview how a measure makes it onto the California ballot, and then I will be posting episode by episode videos for each of the 7 propositions, giving you the for and the against argument, giving you a little bit of the contextual background, a fiscal impact prediction, and then also give you a little bit of a rundown of the money that has already been invested in a given proposition and the individuals or committees who are proponents or opponents of a given proposition, because I think that is important to know as well. And ultimately, I really, really want each and every one of you to vote in this election. It is not a throwaway election cycle. There are some very important propositions that we will be presented with and we will be asked to vote on. So please start by watching these videos. Do any additional research that you feel is important and necessary. Ask questions down below, engage with me, engage with one another, and hopefully we can all make our way towards making very informed, responsible, and thoughtful voting decisions come this November. So, without further ado, let us launch Flex Your Vote. Okay, so let's break down the 2 ways that a measure can successfully make it onto the California state ballot. The first and more straightforward pathway is where the California state legislature themselves introduce a proposition. They're permitted to do this when attempting to amend the California state constitution or California law, or when the legislature is proposing a bond measure. The second pathway is where any registered California voter is permitted to introduce either an initiative or a referendum. An initiative is any policy or law. A referendum is a vote to accept or reject previously enacted policy or law. And this distinction becomes critical for Proposition 31 because Proposition 31 is a referendum. Review of a law passed in 2020 restricting flavored tobacco. So referendum becomes very essential when considering Proposition 31, and stay tuned for that video. But back to this pathway. Any registered voter is permitted to introduce an initiative or a referendum. However, there are steps that must be followed and certain thresholds that must be met for the measure to actually make it onto the ballot. And these steps are outlined in the statewide initiative guide prepared by the California Secretary of State. And shout out to this document because that is where I did my research and gathered the information for this portion of the video. I will link it down below. Feel free to immerse more in depth in that document. It does a wonderful job of outlining all the required steps. And I'm just going to go ahead and overview the necessary steps. It will also help provide some context as to why there are so few measures on the ballot this go around. And apparently that number 7, we have 7 measures on the current ballot, is the lowest number since 1916, which is crazy. And the biggest reason for that is missing the minimum number of signatures required for a measure to actually make it onto the ballot. But let's start at the top. So step 1 is for a proponent to actually compose the text of the measure, the text of the law that you are attempting to propose. After this document has been created synthesizing the measure, it is submitted for official review to the Attorney General, the California Attorney General. The California Attorney General will then engage in an in-depth review of the submitted measure, and this includes a 30-day public review. If a measure makes it past this review period, then the Attorney General will create something called the circulating text and the circulating summary. And that's essentially the text of the proposition as we all see it and as the legislature sees it, because the Attorney General will send a copy of the proposed law to the California State Legislature, and there's going to be a fiscal impact estimate that is created by the Department of Finance and the legislative analysts to try and understand what is going to be the monetary impact of actually implementing this law or failing to implement this law, and what is going to be the financial toll on the state and to the constituency. And then comes the next and maybe the most detrimental step, the signature requirement. Proponents will then have 180 days to gather the required number of signatures for the measure to actually make it onto the ballot. Now, if it's an initiative that has no bearing on the Constitution, the minimum required signatures must be at least 5% of the registered voting base that voted in the past California gubernatorial election. So that number as it stands now is 673,212 signatures required for an initiative that has been proposed. If the initiative attempts to amend the Constitution, of course the required number of signatures is going to increase. So the minimum number of signatures required must be at least 8% of the registered voting base that voted in the prior gubernatorial election. That currently amounts to 997,139 signatures. So those numbers are pretty significant, and I think it's evident why we have so few measures that are currently on our ballot. It's a signature requirement. And although 180 days seems like a significant amount of time, passing around your proposed proposition and ensuring that individuals understand what it entails, what voting for it or against it would entail, and then asking them to sign off on this proposition is quite a task. And like I said, that is the number one reason why we have the fewest number of measures since 1916. But I also think that might be an opportunity for us to really wrap our heads around all 7 of these measures. There will be 7 episode videos that I will be releasing covering each of these propositions, and I really encourage you to watch them, immerse in them, and allow that to be a launch pad for you to conduct additional research or start to figure out which side your vote falls. And please stay in touch as you are starting this journey with me. And if you would like additional information on things beyond the scope of the 7 propositions on our California state ballot, I would love to hear that. Throw it down below and let me know what you want to hear from me. And we'll go from there. I am just so happy and excited to have you all with me on this journey. And I think it's going to be a really informative voting experience for all of us. So stay tuned for more episodes. Stay tuned for more videos breaking down each of the propositions. And I look forward to flexing my vote with you.